Welcome. I'd probably like to set the scene for the first few minutes. We live in quite a disruptive world at the moment and somewhat disturbing in many aspects. We've got the largest superpower of the world printing money, led by Trump, who makes friends every place he turns. We've got North America preferring to invest in marijuana. Australia is voting next week. What's that going to do to our Australian economy, our dollar? And does it matter? Will he still be there in 12 months' time when we reconvene next year? Our Australian gold price is nearing all-time highs, and our Aussie miners are doing very well. But as we heard in the first talk this morning, is any of that money going into juniors? Not a lot really at the moment. It's quite stagnant. It's actually quite disappointing. It is hard to raise money. So what's going to take to change that? I'm not quite sure, but if you listen to chartists, etc., they say gold is set for a change in a positive aspect. I think so. I hate predicting it, but I do believe it's set and poised to go higher. So how do you pick a good gold stock? It's quite difficult, obviously. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But obviously, you want to know, if you're into the explorer, developer, discovery mode, you want a company with large upside, actively drilling. We want raw resources, and we want them building rapidly. There needs to be a clear pathway to economics and production, and you need a team that's done it before and can do it again. And of course, funding, which we discussed earlier. So we'll move on to why I think De Grey should at least be looked at and be part of your portfolio going forward. These are just some of our results we published a couple of weeks ago and a few weeks previous to that. So if you don't know De Grey, we basically are in the Pilbara, and I'll show you a few slides where that is shortly. The numbers that I like there more than the 136 at 2 is the 26 at 3, 29 at 4.4. That's in one of our prospects where we've already got resources. This is the next 100 metres. We're getting high-grade hits in stacked lodes, and you'll see some diagrams of that, and numerous stacked lodes. It's in a different beast to all the other ones we're finding. I think we can add tonnes and grade really and ounces here quite quickly. But we're also drilling shear zones that are no different to what you'd see in Kalgoorlie, but they're in the Pilbara, where everybody tells me there's no gold. I would like to prove them very wrong. So we're a growth exploration company. We've got control of emerging gold province, we believe, of a scale that is quite immense really for a junior, in Australia in particular. We've got 1.4 million ounces defined already. We're targeting 2 million ounces by the end of the year and 3 million ounces shortly thereafter, hopefully in the next year or so. We are undertaking a PFS, but unfortunately we keep hitting gold and we keep deferring aspects of it as we try to work out what scale this should be. It's a good thing to have, and we do want to transition into being a producer. We believe we have a mine potentially already, but it's what scale is the best way to tackle it. So we've got a market cap around $35, $40 million, depending on what day and who sells the last shares on the day. Basically, our last major shareholders are Kirkland, one of the best producers in Australia at the moment. DGO, that's a group of Melbourne high net worths led by Ed Eshues, who loves our project for its scale and its upside. He loves to drill, and he keeps telling us to keep drilling. So management have a fair stake, and we're invested heavily. We've got the team to do it. Most of us have been explorers, upper management are explorers. Brett Lambert's a mining engineer, built mines. Peter Hood in particular has just come on. He's run big companies, smelters, and built companies to billion-dollar companies. So our vision is to discover, and 3 million is our initial target. We want to develop, so we've got to understand the economics, and obviously we want to get to production. And when we say production, we want to meet the market expectation. We want to be above 100,000 ounce type thing that the market drives, preferably a fair bit higher. And obviously we want to be in a good cash centre, cash costs. So we aim to get into production on this project in the near future. So where is it? We're less than an hour's drive out of Port Hedland, the biggest economic port in Australia. We've got railway lines going through all our tenements, bitumen roads, good infrastructure. It looks pretty small on that map, but when we get to the next slides, hopefully that'll look a lot bigger. The Pilbara is a big place. There's lots of gold being found, and we would have to be, if not already, one of the largest resources, gold resources in the Pilbara. And certainly by 2 million ounces, we should be one of the biggest. Scale. That little blue patch you saw is 150 kilometres long. It's similar scale to these other well-known Archean belts around the world that have produced or discovered 100 million ounces type number in them. Exploration where we are has really only just begun. So we've got 100 years of exploration to catch up to these guys. We've already got, approaching 2 million ounces, and that's really with very little drilling to date. So I'm not going to be around in 100 years, and many of you probably won't either, but I'd like to think in time we'll start to catch up on them. So huge blue sky in our view. We're hitting the pretty significant intersections already. We've got resources building, and we have a high hit rate when we drill. That's part of our problem with the PFS. We have to keep reassessing what our scale should be. So it's 150 kilometres along. There's 200 kilometres of shear zones mapped in there with our data. Those blue aspects on areas on the top, so the red is the shear zones, the blue is generally untested geochemical anomalies. Very little drilling's been seen in any of them, and it's only the yellow dots where you actually see intense RC and diamond drilling. So we've got roughly 5 main big systems. Most of those are 5 kilometres long, and they've generally got 1 kilometre of drilling in them. Open along strike and open at depth. So 1.4 million ounces, quite strong in terms of measured indicated, but more importantly to me, every one of these deposits is outcropping. And I cannot understand how it's taken so long to find these deposits less than 100 kilometres, 1 hour's drive out of Port Hedland. This is going to grow. And the other thing I like on that slide is 900,000 ounces of them is currently in the top 100 metres. So we've got a slide here that just 3 years ago, early 2016, I got involved. They had about 350,000 ounces. We are now targeting 2 million ounces in a short period since we've done an acquisition, finalising that, and we've been exploring and adding ounces. So rapid growth in resources is a function of the project, it's a function of being aggressive, and it's a function of drilling. So I'm going to talk about 2 main prospects while we're here. It's really, I don't have time to explain them all. Taurana, I believe, can be a step change, a game changer in our plans. It's already made us change our drilling plans. We're hitting high-grade quartz veins in this granite, so it's now in not in a shear zone, but in a granite host. It's potentially like a wallaby, Jupiter down in the goldfields, but you'll see in the next slide, there's another one in Canada that I like, that it might be more similar to. We are RC and diamond drilling it right now. Drilling-wise, the company's done just hitting 16,000 metres since January in RC and diamond drilling, and we were slowed down for 3 to 4 weeks by Cyclone Veronica, where we couldn't do any drilling and had to evacuate everybody out. It's got large resource upside. So we've got a resource of 143,000 ounces in the top 100 metres, with only about 75% of the granite drilled at that stage, in that 100 metres. That's about 1,400 ounces per vertical metre. If you actually did the uncut, it's about 2,000 ounces per vertical metre in that little box, the yellowy sort of orangey box. 2.2 grade, uncut it's 3, so we need to get the upper cuts much higher. we're drilling that down, where I've indicated down to 200 metres now. That RC drilling is virtually finished. We're just waiting on most of the results now. Those good results I had on the front page, that's where those results come from. This has the potential to be 400,000 ounces down to 200 metres. I think it will actually exceed that. It'll be a large part of our 2 million ounce resource target. They're stacked veins and they seem to go on forever. There's a couple of very historical drill holes, poorly sampled all the way down to 400 metres, that show it continues and is mineralised down to 400 metres. So we're now plugging holes down from 200 to 400, and I'm planning to put a deep hole down to 600 and maybe 800 in the very near future. So here's a cross-section that we put out a couple of weeks ago. So the blue areas are the current resource, the pink areas are the new lodes that we've got, and the area in the middle is drilled with no results with the blue holes. We're waiting on them. They're going to be out shortly in the next couple of weeks. This is the next section. So the pink lodes are basically the new lodes outside the resource. The blue ones are inside the resource. And just for a bit of backup, this is one of the first gold deposits found in the Pilbara. Historical mining was 5,000 ounces at 40 grams from one of these lodes. So we've drilled 4 lines. We're now drilling an extra 2 north and south of it. So there's about another 5,000 to 6,000 metres of assays to come in. And because we're now getting sort of a large database of drill results, we'll have a larger population of high-grade numbers, so hopefully we'll be able to lift that high-grade cut-off up, and that will lift the grade, I believe. So those results will start coming out over the next 4 to 6 weeks, I would suggest. Trying to compare it in scale. Scale is our biggest problem in the whole project. So our resource is the little red dotted line on the left there. We're drilling down to 200 metres, the first top bigger box, and we're extending diamond drilling down to 400 metres. And we'll punch a couple of deeper holes again, like I said. But it's like a 300 metre pipe. And there's another one a little bit to the north, which we see in a little bit of drilling that was done earlier. We're going to test that as well. So the comparison is Lamaque and Sigma in Canada. This is a 9+ million ounce deposit that's been mined, that's production, in a similar scale beast. Can we get that? Who knows? That's the joy of exploration and discovery. But that's mineralised down to 2 kilometres basically. So has the potential to be a big deposit. So first steps to get, say, the first 500,000, and obviously make it grow to 1 million plus. Recently we've done some ore sorting. That's looking really positive. It basically puts quartz veins separate to the waste rock with 1 pass of laser sorting. And the most important part there is they are coarse fragments. They're using 20 or 2 centimetres to 10 centimetre pieces. We've got to do a lot more work to prove that, but that's where we're heading on that one. Now the resources elsewhere, we're targeting shallow open pits everywhere, but we're actually pushing some holes under Withnell. There's 4 high-grade lodes that we think will average 4 to 5 grams at 5 grams plus. We're targeting another 400,000 to 700,000 ounces at depth there. We're plugging holes into that, and there's more resources coming out in that. So the beauty of that one is, that's just the pit. A couple of quick things, don't look at the numbers. It's really just to show you we're targeting plunging shoots. The drilling's required to start targeting that. We're starting to see those plunging shoots develop. It takes time and money and drilling, but there's no other way to do it. So there are some of the lodes we're getting. This is some of the mineralisation we get at Withnell. It's nice high-grade material. This is a quick slide just to show you how little exploration's been done. It's not overly clear, but basically the black dots on the yellow show how much drilling there is at depth. There's very little, basically. We're trying to understand the economics, and basically we've just expanded our study to 2 million from 1 million throughput. The previous scoping study was 1 million tonnes, did 60,000 ounces, so the multiplication's pretty quick and easy for most people, where 2 million tonnes might take us. But we want to put in higher grade from Taurana and high grade it through that concentrate. So we won't go on that too much, but basically we're halfway through that. GR Engineering have nearly finished that design work and costings, and we're about to do the pit optimisations. Our biggest problem on the pit optimisations is getting that final resource, and we're continuing to drill. Where do you draw the line in the sand? The circuit's there. Come and talk to me about anything you want to, don't understand in anything you read, or give me a ring later on. Like I said, the feasibility is there's no deadline there, but basically we'd like to finish that by the end of the year, get the resources expanded at Taurana, work on those and see where we see the potential thereafter. That's the team. We won't talk about them. And that's it, thank you. So come and see me at the booth, which is literally the other side of this wall, and happy to talk further.